Hi, this is Pamela Parker, Research Director of the Content Studio at Third Door Media. And I'm here to remind you that the Search Engine Land Awards are now open for entries. So get your team recognized for the outstanding work they do in search marketing. Visit this link to enter today, and good luck.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on today's session, Performance Max for Lead Gen and How to Make It Work. My name is Menachem and I launched my first campaign on Google Ads in 2003, 2 years of working in search. I'm the founder of JXT Group. We're a boutique agency established in 2009. We're a premier Google partner agency, and we're based in New Jersey on the East Coast of the United States. As you can imagine, digital advertising has evolved quite a bit since I first started out. But I love the challenge of learning something new, and we're always excited to try new things. We started testing Performance Max back in July 21, and we've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't, especially for lead gen, where it's super tricky to get the right quality results. So before getting started, what are we trying to solve today? What we found is that Performance Max is prone to spam. What happens is the system shows your ads to display video network beyond search, and without the proper inputs, the system doesn't know the difference between a good lead or a bad lead. And if it gets bad leads, but it thinks they're good, it'll kind of pat itself on the back and go after more. At the end of the day, automation and machine learning are only as good as the data that we feed it. And Performance Max needs offline data in order to perform well and restrict spam and bot form submissions to focus on high quality leads for your business. So today we'll learn about what's the best way to structure your campaigns, why audience signals are important, how to prevent spam bots from abusing your forms, and what can you do to improve lead quality utilizing offline conversion tracking and other tactics. So to get started, the ideal campaign structure is the one that supports your business and your business goals. So Google's best practice recommends that you minimize the amount of campaigns you have running in the account. With Performance Max, it's best to run as few as possible. Typically, we only split it into separate campaigns if we need to. And there are three primary reasons you would want to segment Performance Max into multiple campaigns. One is budget, two, or if you need to assign different bids, and three, for location targeting. Again, as few campaigns as possible, but if, for example, you have a certain service or product that you want to assign a larger budget to than everything else, you need to split it into a separate campaign so that you can assign a separate budget. And the same goes for bid. If you have a certain product line or service that's more profitable, you'll want to be able to split that in a separate campaign so you can bid separately. And the same for location. If you need to target different areas, you would do that also by splitting it into separate campaigns. So here's an example campaign where we typically recommend building these campaigns. Again, budget, bid, and location. So here's an example of a business targeting two locations, two separate budgets, two different bid targets. And within each campaign, you'll have asset groups built around the different products or services that you provide. And in each asset group, you're going to have the corresponding ad copy, creative, landing page, and audience signals. This way, you can assign a budget and bid strategy accordingly in the best way to support your business. Within each asset group, there are 4 core components, and you'll want to make sure to get these right. We'll dive into the specifics of each as we move forward today. But ultimately, everything should match and be corresponding to the specific product or service. The landing page, the copy, the audience signals should all be geared together, line you up for success. So how should you structure your asset groups? Right now, Google is rolling out asset group level reporting, And so where in the past you may have wanted to split certain products or services into a separate campaign just so you can see how it's performing, you can now actually run those through one Performance Max campaign and see the performance results. Hopefully soon we'll get the ability to bid on asset group level as well. But again, the asset group should be structured around the theme of your product or service. As you likely know, audience signals are not direct audience targets. So, why are they important? If you're ultimately not targeting these people that you're creating an audience signal of, why is it important? And so, what we've learned is that with search ads, the system is targeting people searching for the keywords that you select. One of the cool things about Performance Max is that it allows you to scale beyond search, beyond because search ultimately is a finite, there's only a certain amount of searches happening for specific keyword sets. And so how do you go beyond that? And that's where Performance Max comes in and really shines. So the audience signals give the system an idea of who you believe your ideal customer should be. How does it know who to show your ads to? It uses data within your account, within your campaign, but you can feed it signals of who you think might convert. And especially for lead gen, I would highly recommend don't overlook audience signals. They're very important to keep the system on track with what's important to you. So there are 4 types of audience signals that you can create. For lead gen campaigns, I highly recommend focusing on your data. So I break these down into 4 groups. You have the pixel data, which is from the Google Ads pixel. You're tracking people who visit your website. You're able to retarget people who viewed your YouTube campaigns and so on. Then you've got the Google data, which is search intent, people who search for certain keywords, visited competitor websites, and so on. Third, you have your customer data, your email subscribers, and so on. And then lastly, interests and demographic data, affinity groups, and so on. I don't love to use group number 4 for targeting because it's not as closely correlated to your business. But I highly recommend focusing on the first 3 sections here. And to kind of break those down a bit, so what Google calls custom segments, you can create lists, audience signals around your top performing keywords from search. If you've run search campaigns, you know what keywords are converting, what's driving conversions, what's driving sales. And so you can create an audience signal of your top performing keywords, as well as people who searched for your competitor brand names or even visited their websites. And this is a great way to tell Google that these are your ideal customers. And of course, as I mentioned, you want to upload your customer list. To me, this is probably the most important audience signal you can provide the system, because if you can give them previous customers who you've actually made money from, there's nothing that'll be as good as that data. Additionally, you can send in your qualified leads, your email subscribers, anybody that you believe is the right customer to target in these campaigns. And again, using the pixel data to target anybody who's already engaged with your website or content. And a pro tip just to keep in mind is that Google has the ability to connect to many different systems, either directly through your CRM. Salesforce, HubSpot have direct integrations to Google. And additionally, some email service providers like Klaviyo and Pipedrive and so on can connect directly. But if you don't have a direct connection, I highly recommend setting one up through Zapier, where you can have your email list, your customer list automatically synchronize into Google Ads, so you don't have to constantly update your list. As your email list grows, your audience signals will continue to populate with new customer data. So this is a really cool way to keep the data up to date and have the system have the right signals to target the right customers. So now you've got your campaign set up, you're getting traffic, but you start getting spam. How do you restrict spam and improve the lead quality? So ultimately, what this boils down to is how does the algorithm know the difference between a good lead, an irrelevant lead, or a spam lead? Because it really does, like if somebody fills out the contact form submission, it really has no idea was that a good lead or not a good lead. And that's where the offline conversion data comes in to tell the system, like, hey, you got 10 leads. These two were good, these two were bad, these two were spam, and so on. Because Performance Max is prone to spam, it needs the additional data in order to really understand. And you want to make sure you don't get into what some call the feedback loop of doom, where again, the system sees a lead come in, thinks it's a good lead, goes after more. And I think one overlooked part of running campaigns we don't think about is that bad leads can be demoralizing to a sales team. So this is our three-step process to block spam leads, score the leads as they come in so the system knows what's a good one, what's not, and import that data back into Google Ads. So how do we block spam leads? Of course, the best approach is to ensure that spam bots are never able to fill out your form. This way, a signal never gets sent to Google that a lead was collected in the first place. So the best way to do this is to utilize a spam filter like reCAPTCHA or creating a honeypot form in the field. There is a version of reCAPTCHA that is invisible where no additional action is required from the end user. It's highly recommended to implement something like this on your landing page so that spam bots cannot fill out the form. That's really the best approach. Another thing to keep in mind is that phone calls typically are going to be better quality conversions. And the reason for that is because by default, Google only tracks a phone call that's longer than 60 seconds as a conversion. So it's less prone to spam. And with a form submission, it's much easier for spam bots to kind of fill out the form. Again, you want to install some kind of spam blocker to make sure they don't. But if you don't have the ability to, for whatever reason, if you can't control the website, you can't make changes to it, you can set your campaigns to focus on phone calls or score your phone calls with a higher number, a higher value in the conversion action so that the system knows that these are worth more to you. At the end of the day, you know your business best and you can assign different values to each lead type that you're tracking. And smart bidding will utilize this data and understand what's more important to your business. Outside of scoring your leads as they come in or blocking spam, if you're able to connect your CRM to Google Ads and import offline conversion data, it'll be very helpful so the system can see as each lead progresses through the pipeline. So when a lead comes in, you'll score it with a value of 0. And as it moves forward through your pipeline, and your pipeline is going to look different, than someone else's, but you can assign values and send that data back into Google Ads so that it can really understand what the value is of each lead, where it came from, and how to find more of those. What's really important to keep in mind when setting up your lead pipeline is the time from lead to close can be different in a lot of industries. So again, you know your industry. In some industries, the sales cycle can be short. In others, it can take weeks, months, or even years. And so if you don't have the ability to look at real-time sales data because it'll be too far out, you can just put estimated values in here and allow the system to just get a decent understanding of what each step in the pipeline is worth, even though it might take 12 months till you see revenue come in. And again, so we'll walk through, how to set this up shortly. So what is offline conversion tracking and how does it help us? I think that most importantly, how does Google know which leads are driving real revenue? Again, we spoke about mapping the leads as they come in, mapping your sales pipeline, but how does it know the revenue? So the only way to do this is to connect your revenue, which is the ultimate source of truth, to Google Ads. By connecting your CRM and automatically importing real-time revenue data into the platform, the algorithm can make more efficient targeting decisions What happens is the system sees which leads are turning into quotes, proposals, sales, and then it's able to make more efficient decisions as the algorithm targets, who it should bid more for. So the one thing to keep in mind with any of this is that in order for offline tracking to work, you need to save and store the Google Click ID that's sent with every session, and that's how the data will get sent back into Google Ads. So there are different ways that you can connect your sales data back into Google Ads. Again, as I mentioned before, certain CRMs will have a direct integration. Salesforce has a direct integration that's done within Google Ads. You just connect your Salesforce account, you map the different milestones. Now the system can see from your cost of the click, the original click, down to the sale, what's driving success for you, and then it can focus in and get more of that. If you're using other CRMs like HubSpot and some others, they have an integration from within their platform where you can connect the data back to Google Ads. And if you're using a platform that does not have a direct connection, you can use a tool like Zapier, which connects with thousands of different apps and bring that data back into Google Ads. And if all else fails, you can do Google Sheets imports, manual CSV imports. There are, like I said, many different ways to get this done. So here, if you're using Salesforce, again, it's done within Google Ads. You just go to linked accounts, connect your Salesforce account, and there's just step by step. You're going to map each step of your sales pipeline back into Google Ads, and the values can come through with it. So when a sale is closed in Salesforce, it can send that actual revenue back, and then you'll be able to use target ROAS bidding within Google Ads, and that's the ideal scenario. Again, like I mentioned with HubSpot, the connection is done within HubSpot. You just navigate within HubSpot to your marketing channels, connect Salesforce, and create events around each of your sales pipeline. This is super helpful to get that data back into Google Ads. Again, if your CRM doesn't have a connection, use Zapier and just import that data or upload through Google Sheets and Excel, where again, it's important to make sure you save the GCL ID with every conversion so you can import that data manually through a spreadsheet. So as we've come to realize, you cannot optimize Performance Max campaign with the methods that worked for search or even display. It's very different. So what bid strategy should I use? You don't even have manual CPC. It's a much more advanced. It's meant to rely fully on the algorithm. But how does the algorithm get that data and get to where it needs to go? So we typically recommend, because we've seen success with this method, starting out with maximized conversions, let the system gather data, and then slowly move towards target CPA or target ROAS if you have revenue data coming in. Aside from providing strong data inputs for the system to utilize, you don't ever really want to shock the system. And this means changing things slowly, giving the system time to find new audiences and reach. Typically, we recommend making smaller incremental changes, and just keep in mind that smart bidding works best with 30 conversions at a minimum over a 30-day period and 50 conversions if you're using target ROAS. So I think the biggest mistake we've seen a lot of people make with Performance Max is give up after 2 or 3 weeks. What we've seen is that Performance Max takes time. It can start off very aggressively, overspend, then really slow down, and it almost feels like nothing's happening. We see this process take about 4 to 6 weeks, possibly longer for smaller campaigns with fewer conversions coming through. And so using the right strategy can shorten this process, and the system can help find the right keywords or display traffic that'll convert. The tricky piece, I think, with Performance Max that we've seen is that it's not easy to test copy and creative. If you want to test different messaging or themes or angles, this could be done within one Performance Max campaign if you have the new asset group level reporting, which is being rolled out again. Not all accounts have it yet. you can create 2 asset groups with similar audience signals and then see which one performs best. Again, this feature is not available in all accounts yet, but hopefully will be soon. This is ideal because all traffic and data is flowing through one campaign. Ultimately, you could do that in 2 separate campaigns, but I don't love it because, again, you're splintering the data. And while it's all in the same account, it's better to have all the data flowing through one campaign. So what do you do if you don't have video assets? Google will create a video for you if you don't have one, so it's better that you be proactive about it. Typically, the easiest thing to do, and Google rolled this out last year, is there is a video builder in the account. It's under the asset library. Just go in there. They've got a lot of templates. Fill one out. Would be best if you have your own video, but this is a pretty decent option if you don't have anything else. Lastly, for us, Performance Max complements our core search campaign. We typically don't like to run only Performance Max. We like to run it alongside search and sometimes YouTube or other campaign types. So it's really important to understand when and where each of these enter the auction. So Performance Max enters the auction only when your standard search campaigns do not have the same search term as broad and exact match. But keep in mind that it will cannibalize your search traffic if you're not targeting the specific keyword directly. So here's a chart from Google that breaks down, the search term needs to match the exact search term that the person is searching for. It doesn't work like broad. If broad match matches a keyword, but you don't have that keyword listed in your search campaign, Performance Max will take over on that. And so it's important to be cognizant of how the system works and how it's going to decide which auction goes in, which campaign goes into the auction. So some of our takeaways from today is that Performance Max is not as simple as it seems. Highly recommend taking the time to set it up right and give it 4 to 6 weeks with minimal changes to gain momentum. Ultimately, Performance Max can give you the ability to scale beyond what's possible with standard search ads, especially when the search volume is limited. But it only works if you set it up correctly and train the system properly. In closing, it's important to embrace the advancements of the different platforms. This is what we found works best, and I hope it helps you achieve success. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you at the next SMX.
Please take a moment to rate this session, then click the Overtime button in the Dig Deeper tab to join us for a live Q&A.